Hi, everyone. Carl Steinbeck here. Friday night, August 1st, 2025. And that means 18 days away from now, we have the murder trial that's supposed to kick off for Donna Adelson, 75-year-old grandmother out of Miami, Florida, charged with first-degree murder, helping organize a murder, conspiring. And it's going to be a trial of significance because it's going to help lay the groundwork for getting more Adelsons convicted. And so tonight, I'm going to cover something that I think is a very key issue for the prosecution to focus on, and everything should be focused around the key points, which is the lunacy and idiotic type behavior that the Adelsons are trying to pass off as normal, real life type behavior that should be credible in the way they conduct themselves. And the one thing that makes this case is stand out and actually scream out with absolutely outrage, and it's absolutely laughable, is this whole thing about how Charlie, in his testimony at his murder trial where he got convicted almost 21 months ago, he said that he only told his mom about the robbery with a payment plan. He only, which he calls an extortion, but he only told his mom about it some days after this happened. So some days after Professor Dan Markell was killed in his garage in Tallahassee, Florida, some 7.5 hours away, way down there in Miami, Charlie tells his mom, "Hey, Mom, guess what? I know who killed Charlie Adelson, and they're demanding money, and I'm going to have to give him money, and I've already given him $133,000, and I need to still give him about $3,000 a month." And it was Katie McBanwell, her connection, that did this. I shouldn't have been joking about TV's cheaper than a hitman, because she told them that, and they thought, well, hey, why don't we kill somebody that he doesn't, that I don't like, and then they'll come after me and extort me and frame me that way. I mean, who's ever heard of something that's that outrageously ridiculous? So anyway, if you look at their behaviors with when this supposed, as they call it, extortion, which I call a robbery, because extortion, they have to have something on you. They had nothing on Charlie. So that's why the prosecution still called it an extortion, but I wish they would have called it just a robbery on it with a payment plan option that he was paying through Katie. So Charlie, the master guy that knows how everything works in the world, including how law enforcement bumps and sting operations work. He has all these connections, both through high society people and also people on the dark side in the criminal world. And so he knows all this stuff works, and yet he's not going to call the police. He's not going to call any buddies to capture these guys. He could have been the hero to capture the guys that were behind killing Professor Dan Markell, because he had nothing to do with it, right? But what does he do? He just lays low, stays quiet as a mouse, only tells his mommy about this. He doesn't even tell his dad about it until when? Almost a couple years later, when the hitmen get arrested. And guess what? They're from Florida, southern Florida, Miami area, of all things. Wouldn't you know? They're like in his backyard. So we are to believe that only this little secret went on with the extortion going on, that among the Adelsons, there's only Charlie telling his mom, and Donna never told Harvey. But guess what that means also? That means that he never talked to all these lawyers of his in the interim period. So for almost 2 years, he never talked to a lawyer, never talked to the police, never talked to the FBI. And this kept on freely giving money to these guys and never did a setup for him. He could have set these guys up for a payment. Call the FBI, have Katie track, see where she gives the money to. They could have had FBI marked money. They could have tracked these guys and busted them. Charlie could have been on the hook, but we're supposed to believe, according to the Adelson theory at trial, which that no, Adelson's thought, we're just going to play victim mode here. We're just going to continually feed these thugs, these hoodlums that killed Professor Markell, because you know what? We're just at their mercy. We're just going to continue to pay them an unlimited amount of money. I mean, think about it. If it's a third of a million and they're just willy-nilly turning it over it on demand, why would they keep on asking for more? So if you really stop thinking about it, though, no one does a robbery with a payment plan, right? They would have said, "Hey, you're going to go get your money now." They have a gun to your head, and they're not going to use somebody like Katie to do this. So the whole thing was so ridiculous. And so guess what? Then we have this thing that I covered last time, which is the bump, this fabulous bump that was done by the FBI and Special Agent Oscar Jimenez is the one that did that. And what he did was he played it flawlessly, where Donna did not know how to take this guy because he's basically demanding her. He's a nice guy doing a threat of, "Hey, you better pay the $5,000." And they didn't know what to do. They didn't know what to do, but it got them talking. They never did pay the $5,000 to this undercover FBI agent, but it got them talking, and they had the wiretaps all lined up. So guess what? The way they acted about a $5,000 demand was like nothing like they acted about a third of a million demand, and they already paid $133,000. So they couldn't figure out whether this was an FBI trap or a law enforcement trap for them, or whether could this be somebody that the Markells had hired, some private investigator that was doing this kind of stunt on them to try to see how they reacted. But you know what? Private people can't tap other people's lines. You need a judge and a search warrant to do that. So they should have realized it was pretty much obvious a law enforcement hit. But you know what Charlie was bragging about? No, this is not how it really goes. So he's convincing his family, no, that's not really how it goes. This is not the way law enforcement works. Trust me, I know, right? So those are the kind of things going on where he's trying to reassure folks, because he was panicking. He didn't know what to think of all this, because think about it, with the two guys that are responsible for driving up there and conducting the murder, both of them are prosecuted and they're going to trial. So Charlie at that time would have been safe to report it. If he really was fearful of it, he could have reported, "Hey, yeah, here's what they did to me. The last 21 months have been extorting money out of me. So with a robbery on a payment plan." So anyway, it's the type of behavior then over $5,000 they're willing to Charlie, keep in mind, was talking about killing this person that happened to be an undercover agent that bumped into his mom Donna there right outside their high-rise condo. So the thing is, nobody in their right mind would have not called the police on either one of those scenarios. They would have definitely used this opportunity, and especially since they're well connected with lawyers. I mean, think about it. The Adelsons were well connected with the Weinstein attorney, the chief judge down there in that county, and I think, what is it, Dade County. So he's like former senator. He's like wields probably most of the power there of anybody in Southern Florida. He's got connections all the way up to Tallahassee, and he's the one that could have helped shape and influence the Adelsons from having Willie Meigs, the initial state attorney chief, from prosecuting any of them. So thankfully, we do have the prosecution of Charlie Adelson. It took many years delayed. It took him almost 9 years to get him prosecuted, but he did get convicted. And anyway, they've had a lot of issues with bad lawyering representing a lot of these folks on the conspiracy side of the house. And the prosecution has not been as aggressive as I would have liked to see, because we're going on, what now, past 11 years, and we only have one Adelson convicted. So it's really disappointing, but that's what we're here for, to talk about ways to help shine a light on what the injustices are in this case, and how also mainly to also push for doing the right thing, and discuss this, as I think that there should be a discussion on how strong the evidence is against all these Adelsons, including Donna here, that's coming up for trial. And they should have had Donna charged right along with Harvey, and they should have had Wendy alongside those two as well, and they should have had Harvey as well. or at least all prosecuted within, charged within a few months of each other. Anyway, that's my take on it. I've been talking about that a lot over the last 2.5 years. So what we have here now is the prosecution is just 18 days away from her trial. Her trial will probably be over with in about 2 weeks, around 2 week mark, maybe less, few days less. Charlie's was about 11 days, so this one may go a few days beyond what Donna's did, but she's really got not anything credible to go on. You got to have a defense theme that makes sense to a jury. Your main actions as a defendant on a murder trial, you have to have things that make sense to a jury, and nothing about the way any of these Adelsons have acted makes any sense at all to any person on any jury. When they listen to the ridiculous stories that Wendy states to try to distance herself from this, you hear the crazy story of what Charlie says happened. Then you hear how the hitmen were paid to get up there to Tallahassee. They tried more than one time to try to take out Professor Markell. They ultimately succeeded in doing that brutal, vicious slaying in his garage, and he survived till the next morning, the 19th of July. So it's something that we have not seen normally done, where folks think that they can just hire somebody to go 7 hours away, get the job killing, and they never get caught. How would somebody think, even 2014, that they would not get caught with all the opportunities to get videotape? They even took the tollway. They had a SunPass toll tag on the car, so that would have been super easy to follow up on and nail the hitmen. And once you got the hitmen who filled out the rental application with both their true names on there, not some alias, but the real names on there, they did not even think that through, these Adelsons. And then lo and behold, their lifestyles change once they get paid. Katie couldn't get paid as much because she had the most direct connections with with Charlie, so they paid her more on the so-called installment plan. But they did have, new motorcycles, new vehicles, that kind of thing. Katie got the vehicle that Charlie had, an older Lexus sedan. So yeah, this thing was not planned out well. I think the hate of the Adelsons just overrode anything that they could have possibly uh, uh, just step back and realize, wait a minute, what are we doing? We're going to risk getting prosecuted for murder to take out Professor Markell just so we can have the boys down here in Miami instead of Wendy living up there for the next 15 years or so until the boys graduate before she's free to leave. So it was absolutely a design plot that was designed to fail. It wouldn't have lasted long. And here we are almost 11 years later. They probably never dreamed it would take this long if they're going to be prosecuted, but they thought they could get away with it. Yeah, the issue about the whole Charlie Adelson testimony. If you've not seen Charlie Adelson's testimony at his trial, you guys that are new to this case, you got to look at Charlie Adelson's testimony, and you'll just it's jaw dropping to think that anybody would think that this guy is telling us anything that makes any sense. It was so self-serving, it was so contrived, fabricated, and it just did not from my experience doing many jury trials from both the prosecution and defense perspective, that you're not going to win a case like that. So you're not going to win a case like this one for Donna either. Donna is very much, I think, dead in the water, dead to right, and she's not going to come out with some kind of plausible explanation for how she's innocent in this whole thing. So her own words will convict her. Her own words on the wiretap are absolutely damning to her. Then we also have she couldn't keep a lid on it also when she was in jail. So she's talking to jailhouse folks that turned out to be snitches to the prosecution. They got to law enforcement or through their attorneys or something and said, "Hey, Donna's talking. She's telling me this and that." So we saw some motion that was recently filed the last couple of days. The defense is trying to keep out testimony of a couple of jailhouse snitches, and they shouldn't have any luck with that. Most of the motion was redacted. What we saw a lot was the defense saying, "Oh, this hasn't been proven. This and that hasn't been proven." Was sort of at the end of the number of the paragraphs. But you know what? It doesn't go to the. It goes to the not the admissibility of their testimony, but the weight of their testimony. That's what the jury decide. Are these people credible at all? Jailhouse snitches can try to find information on somebody that's got more serious charges than them, and then snoop through, things that they can find through open sources to then say, "Hey, this is what the defendant told me," and try to bolster a case for leniency on their own situation they're in. So anyway, Donna's not only failed to keep her mouth shut when the FBI was wiretapping her lines and talking about the case, but she also was talking to folks in jail, and whether who else she was talking about the case, we know she was talking to some of the folks that are on the defense witness list, but these folks here have can be definitely cross-examined and have a lot of damning things that would be said about not only Donna, but also the other Adelsons there of South Florida. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn over. That's my opening monologue here. With that, I'm going to go ahead and turn over for questionings tonight. So do you guys have any questions on anything coming up for this trial? Patriotic, you see this defense team seems terribly outmatched against Georgia and Sarah. Well, they're at least putting up a flurry of motions. They're asking for renewed motions. They're actually putting in more effort than they did than we saw for Charlie's defense with Rashbaum. So I do think that you want to have any defendant you prosecute have competent counsel. You don't want to have ineffective counsel. You don't want to have them lose only because they didn't put up a good fight for the defendant. And that happens more often than you think, where there's a winnable case, but you got bad lawyering that tanks a case for them. Beth Horowitz, Northern Ireland, good evening. You're asking, will Donna take the stand? Honestly, you don't think she will. That's something that, normally you don't see a defendant take the stand. And if you got a close call, like I've been covering the Karen Reed case, we saw she didn't testify in the first trial. She wouldn't testify in the second trial. If you got a winnable case as a defense, you do not put your client on the stand pretty much all the time. Now, your client may want to override you, but normally a good lawyer can talk their client out of it. Here, I think the defense realizes they don't have a good case to win for Donna. So if Donna wants to testify, they're going to let her testify. So I don't see her saying, "No, I don't want to testify." She's thinking, I gotta get out there. I gotta tell my story, and they're going to believe me because this is wrong, and this is going to be something that she wants. She's not going to live with the idea that she cannot testify. Because think about it, everyone is talking about how she likes to control outcomes and scenarios. So she's going to allow this case to be controlled and decided without her having a say in it. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that aligns up with her personality. Yeah, John Smith, she keeps trying to get any evidence against her out of the trial. Yeah, so everything that's incriminating, do a motion in limine to keep it out, try to suppress it. And I mean, they got the book so far kept up, but on impeachment, that the judge said you can bring out all the different things about Tallahassee that Wendy dislikes about it, just things she disliked about Dan, that kind of thing. There's a lot of parallels with her life and her marriage to Dan Markell that she transferred onto the pages of that book. So that can be used against her, I think, if something as simple as her saying, I Oh, I love Tallahassee. I could have lived the rest of my life. Well, automatically that book should come in. I think it should come in anyway. But in any event, we'll see what happens. Mimi, you're saying they were supportive of their son on trial for murder. They didn't realize it would be strange not to be in the courtroom. Yeah, well, I've been saying it's sort of like either way you slice and dice it. If Charlie's parents aren't there, that looks like they're like running for the hills. They don't want to be associated with Tallahassee. And if they are there looking supportive, you know, when all this damning evidence is coming out, jury's going to be looking at them a lot, not just Charlie. So it was a lose-lose scenario for the defense, no matter what they did on that scenario. Yeah, Tatted T. Charlie's testimony is so ridiculous, almost comical, but the situation is not funny at all. That is something I totally agree with. Phoebe Beach, you saying you love to watch Charlie's testimony here with my comments. Okay, I don't know if you're talking about for this upcoming trial. We don't know if he's for sure if he's going to testify. He's more, I predict he's going to be a rebuttal witness for the state. If Donna tries to say she didn't know anything about this bump, in Charlie's trial, he testified that it was like a few days or might have, up to 2 weeks, somewhere in that range, a couple days to a couple weeks. He informed his mom about this bump, and that's why they only brought it out like the morning of Wendy's testimony. So when Wendy's saying, I didn't know anything about it till this morning. So he's like, yeah, right. Okay. Um, so I've already done a review of Charlie's testimony. Charlie's testimony is so bad. I was covering a live stream with my brother John. He was there watching the trial the whole time. I was only there for the last closing arguments, and then I was there to for a couple days after that. But anyway, the thing is, Charlie's testimony. If you look at this channel, in over 2 years ago, I covered his testimony in a live stream. So his testimony is so bad. I got so insulted by listening to it. I just it's like stuff you want to poke your eyes out. It was that boring and horrific to have to listen to. Is like pure torture. So I think I turned him down, and I was just sort of like going on and like, this is not going to work, guys. This is not gonna. He's not going to win. This guarantees a loss. And so a lot of folks thought, oh, I don't know. He sounds so smooth. He's got an answer for everything. But you know what? His demeanor, his credibility, his answer for everything. None of that the jury's going to pick up on as and be fooled by that. And sure enough, the jury had a lunch and they're back within a couple hours. It was that much a slam dunk. Prosecution didn't know how good they had it. Why did they wait that long? Camel Cast, you're saying we got chat from Germany, UK, Singapore, yeah, Northern Ireland, Canada, and of course Texas. I did not realize that. So yeah, we do have folks from all continents pretty much. I know South Africa is on here almost every time as well. I see we have Trial Channel in the house. They're also going to be covering this case. Little Miss Red Velvet. How long do I think the jury selection will take? It'll take at least 2.5 to 3.5 days. And they don't allow us to see all that. They'll have select members of the media be able to go back at different periods when they do individual one-on-one questioning. There's going to be mostly one-on-one questioning, I believe. That's really going to get down to the nitty-gritty and see who's going to be excluded as a juror. Leslie B, you're asking, why would Donna's bar mitzvah dress be relevant? Can the state object? They'll probably will object. I don't know what they're trying to prove with a bar mitzvah dress. I mean, I would think they want to stay away from their bar mitzvah. That's the one that they kept. The wonderful Markells, the grandparents of the surviving boys of Dan Markel. They were disinvited. So it's very cruel the way they've been treated by Wendy and Donna. Armin Fence, why do I think they did the hit in broad daylight and drive away? That I think it's because it was easiest to get Dan that way. I think they drove so far away and they want to make sure it was him. And it's the most easy way to get caught doing a broad daylight, obviously. So it's I think also they're on drugs, and I don't know what kind of how detailed instructions Charlie gave him, other than the timeline that when it would be free to target Dan because he didn't have the boys with him. Wilker, what do you think about Wendy on the run, continually moving west? Yeah, I think it shows that she's not having a stable situation. Yeah, it's got to be something that even as much as you're trying to not think about it, it's something that constantly in the back of your mind. Is the next knock on the door going to be FBI? Am I going to be nabbed when I'm going out the door? Am I going to be stopped when I'm driving my car? Am I going to be picked up after and arrested after I drop off the boys somewhere? So that's got to be wearing on your nerves, something fierce. Dan D'Onofrio, CPA, howdy. As well, do I think, or can Harvey be in the gallery? Harvey is not on the witness list for either side, so yeah, he can be there. I think he will be there, and because I think Donna expects it of him, but he's not going to want to be there. And the jury's going to be looking at him. They're going to be reading his body language, not just Donna's. Thank you, food is love. Yes, use a red question mark emoji. If you have a question, it's easier for me to see. Hey, Snake Hips, you're saying you can't wait for the trial. You're going to be busting out champagne, cheese, and crackers. Yeah, I mean, you know what? When we were there and Charlie's convicted, you know what? All the people, including content creators that we were there in the courtroom, you know, nobody was like, "Yeah, we got him. Yeah, he's going down." Nobody's like cheering it on. Nobody. It was just sort of like, you know what? What a waste. What a absolute waste that you took the life of somebody that meant to so much to so many people, and then you basically destroyed your own life to do that. So really, how sick and sad is that? Camel Cast, yeah, Charlie told Harvey in the Japanese restaurants. That's also on YouTube. FBI was listening to that as well. They didn't have very good technical equipment to pick up on the conversation as much as you would imagine. They had the capability to do that, but you do hear enough. Harvey was not late to the game. He was not shocked and first time finding out about this involvement of his other family members. So Barrett Laurie, I recall Charlie's trial consisting of Donna's name mentioned over and over. Will Harvey attend daily trials? Yeah, so I've already answered that. I think Harvey will be there. Charlie will be on standby in a jail cell, waiting to see if he's being called by the prosecution. I don't think the defense will call him. He doesn't have immunity if the defense calls him. Let's see, B, yes, like the wet bandits of hitmen. Yeah. And thank goodness they have this Florida sunshine laws where we can see so much of the evidence. In most states, you wouldn't see any near of this kind of evidence. You'd have no idea the amount of information that's out there in their possession that they have against the Adelsons. Hello to Ireland as well. John Smith, are motions mostly for appeals? Well, not necessarily. I mean, they can be, but a lot of times motion in limine is you're trying to get stuff kept out. As a defense attorney, you want to get stuff kept out at the trial level. So it's going to help you get an acquittal or lesser charges or a hung jury or something other than a conviction. But there's also ones that are designed for, if the judge doesn't grant it your way, you at least have something on the record. So a lot of the motions are doing it also to show that they're not ineffective, because you can get a conviction thrown out for ineffective assistance of counsel. And that's why I think ultimately Charlie's defense will be, probably take the federal system where he's going to say he had ineffective assistance due to Rashbaum's conflict. Ted T, you're asking, do I think the state has a lot of new evidence from before Donna's arrest, or do I think it'll be a repeat of Charlie's? No, I think there's going to be some new evidence. I don't think it's going to be a complete rewrite. I think there's, maybe 20% more than they had last time in Charlie's trial that applies directly to Donna. So Mimi, you're saying a lot of lawyers on other podcasts have said these defense lawyers are great. I haven't seen it. I don't know what they're talking about. I mean, they're filing motions, stuff like that, but they're not really winning any of these motions, and they're not going to win over a jury. I don't think this whole issue with that's supposedly out there with the attorney Fulford allowing Donna to use her phone for stuff, and Donna's got committed misconduct doing that. If that's true, then that's not good lawyering, I would say. And this really, if you look at them, it seems like the closer this gets to trial, the more they look deflated, low energy. They're not confident. They don't appear confident at all in their case. They look really beat down. Part of it may be because they realize they messed up. I mean, Fulford just pretty much clammed up. You don't really hear from her anymore. So she may be worrying about stuff on the back end. What happens after this trial? Is she going to get in trouble for something? Like I said, we don't know enough details, and so I'll just consider that speculation at this point. But why is the whole attitude and demeanor of the defense counsel changed as we get closer to trial? They don't have much confidence at all. They have a complete lack of confidence. Don Owens, why do you think some people say that Harvey Adelson may not know anything about the murder, but why did he not say, why are you taking my wife? She hasn't done anything. Well, you could go down a whole laundry list of things that that show that Harvey Adelson didn't act like a normal person would be doing. In fact, there's a YouTube video I have out there that's totally dedicated just to Charlie Adelson indicators. So that was done over 2 years ago, I think. So if you go back on this channel, just search Harvey Adelson. Not many people are talking about it, so I did a live stream on that. Patriotic, you're saying it's going to be epic. I cannot wait to see how much the new evidence we haven't seen will implicate Wendy. Yeah, I don't know much they'll roll out about Wendy. They did do some more evidence drops against Wendy last time, like that text message she gave to Dan, asking him what is about his whereabouts on the 14th to 18th of July of 2014. That was a couple weeks before he got murdered. So she's asking what his whereabouts are in relation to the handoff of the kids. And it was a scheduled visitation day on what they had in place. So why would she be asking about that? Nora, you're asking, are all possible legal delays exhausted? I mean, there's always can be something new why they have to delay a case. And look at that. Donna's last trial got completely went off the rails, and she had several lawyers. They all got wiped off the case. The lead attorney, Rashbaum, had to withdraw the first day of trial, and the other two got bounced a couple days later. Yeah, happy-go-lucky. Harvey will not testify, but I think he's going to be there. He'll be absolutely terrified to be there, but he's going to be there. Brian McHugh, there in Scotland. Hello. Your question is, do you know anything about this? Oh, you're asking, why do Americans have jury selection? Here in Scotland, the only question is, do you know anything about this case or anything about insert name of the defendant? Why do Americans get to censor a jury? Well, because a lot of it has to do with biases and prejudices and preconceived ideas and beliefs, just system beliefs. Maybe what if the defendant in Scotland thinks that everybody charged is automatically guilty and they're going to vote to convict? How is this one question going to screen those people out? They would be able to say, I don't know anything about the case or nothing about Joe Schmo, the defendant. So that's why it's really critical. We have the ability. It's not jury selection is really not selection. It's more like deselection, who you're kicking off. The people that have issues that cannot be fair, then those are the kind of people you want off. What if the person says, yeah, I don't know anything about the case, but you know what? I don't like the looks of that guy over there, the defendant. I think he looks guilty. In my mind, he's guilty. Don't know anything about the case, though, and but I just think he looks guilty. So obviously, you don't want people like that on the jury. So that's why we have that. And I think it's also a lot of times you get a chance to present your theory to the case. If people have some weird ideas about something, and so and maybe they want to ask something about maybe the person has some kind of background that they don't like. Maybe they're different race or gender they don't like, or they have biases or prejudices against. That's the kind of stuff the attorney should flesh out. So we want to have as a true pure as we can get of a system where the jurors are don't have an agenda. We want as much as we can an agenda-free jury. The only agenda they should have is following law to the T and not having and following the instructions, which is you're presumed innocent, and only if the prosecution carries their burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt for each and every element as charged, only then does the jury have the ability to convict. And if the jury does not find that one single one of the elements is met on any particular charge, then they have a duty to acquit. So anyway, the jury system is what I call the equalizer against government corruption. It prevents people from getting railroaded because ultimately you can have prosecutors out of control, like we saw in the Cure and Reed case, and you want to have the public be able to stop that onslaught of due process violations. It's not supposed to be a political witch hunt. That's not what prosecutors are there for. So that's what the jury does. Hopefully that helps you. KLK, you're asking, why did the FBI not wiretap Wendy's phone? Well, if you think about it, she got cleared probably within the first 40 minutes by the lead detective on the case, Detective Isom. So even though he's going through processing the scene, like with her car, the phone of hers, they didn't do a full search of her phone. There's a lot of things they didn't do a full review on, and so with that, they also didn't think, well, we don't need to wiretap her because we think this is done by the folks in South Florida. So anyway, more important than a wiretap with Wendy, because I think she was smart enough not to talk on the phone. Maybe not, but I think what they should have tried to get was like the WhatsApp messages, Snapchat, all those kind of things that can be erased. They should have tried to pursue that right away, and I don't think they did for any of the witnesses, for that matter. I think that would have been really revealing. Trial channel, is Donna going to use extortion plot defense or straight denial and obliviousness? I don't want to say which she's going to use because I don't want to give them any tips. I know they often look at channels to try to get tips and clues. I'm not going to give them any kind of help on that. But I can say either one that they do use is not going to be something that they're going to win an acquittal on. Lulu, has Donna held up better than you'd expected? Do you think she will eventually break and turn on Wendy? I think that Donna, in some ways, has held up better, but in other ways, she's not. I think when you look at how she's acted in jail, she's got folks that she's been trying to use for helping her defense, and they turned around and backfired on her, and they snitched on her. We don't know the details of that, but I mean, she has been locked down a lot of the time. She's been in there almost 21 months now. So has she survived in terms of, is she alive? Yes, but their quality of life is absolutely an abysmal thing, and so she's going to be looking at a jury and not looking very good. I know she's complained about she's gained a third of her body weight. She says everything's full of carbs there. So you don't have the good food that she's used to. So anyway, thankfully they have laws in place where people like her can't be let loose to flee the country like she tried earlier. Linda Caps, any guesses of what they want to ask the eldest son, Rob? I think they're going to be talking to him about how Donna was maybe so controlling over who he dated, his dating choices, how she's extremely much, so much so that she's willing to basically cut him out of the family. And so on top of that, then you have the Adelson behavior, the Florida Adelson's behavior on how strange they acted and how guilty they acted after the murder of Professor Markell, and how his name was off limits from discussion, those kind of things. So yeah, it's very helpful to have that Honorable Dr. Rob testify against his mom. So basically, Donna's going to for sure have her son Rob testify. I believe, I can't believe that they wouldn't pursue that testimony when it's that helpful. So that's what I think is gonna be his benefit. They've tried to keep his testimony out, but his testimony is relevant, and the prosecution needs to get into the detail of the way they acted after Dan's death, his murder, because I think that really sets the scene well. These folks did not act normal in any way as innocent folks after the murder. Yeah, Phoebe Beach again. You're saying you meant Charlie's trial. Okay, yeah, I've already covered that as my commentary. I cannot do that many hours of straight commentary. I basically was mocking it, and I just had to turn it down, just start talking and ranting about how ridiculous this whole thing is. I cannot believe an attorney would expect a jury to believe his insane storytelling. Tina T, I tell people do not contribute, but I do not screen people for money, and I never ask for money. So, and I tell people do not get money. And so Super Chat is on just because it allows the, it doesn't restrict the distribution of the algorithms of this channel. But in any event, you're asking, does anyone know what Harvey has been up to since Donna has been in jail? No, he's been really quiet. I understand he's got an apartment or something up there so he can visit Donna in jail more so. So nobody is in South Florida anymore then. He goes down there to check on their high rise, I guess, occasionally, I imagine, but he's stuck up in Tallahassee. So the one thing they didn't want, which is Wendy living in Tallahassee, they wanted to have the family down there all in Miami, except Rob. Rob wasn't fitting in. They couldn't control him. So he was the odd man out, him and his family. But you know what? Now think about it. Now, now Wendy's not even in the state. She's out in Colorado, supposedly. We don't know the boys and her are at. And so what's that tell you about visitation with the Markells? And then you have Donna in jail. She's been in jail for going on 21 months now. And they hated Tallahassee so bad, they thought of that as a bunch of country bumpkin hicks and all that. Oh. Yeah, my Rodriguez Sorensen is an attorney. Have you ever? You're saying Charlie's testimony was painful. I can't imagine. I'm thinking all the trials I've taken part in, and I've seen in watching others try cases, stuff like that, even on TV or whatever. I've just never seen some defendant get up there and just tell such stories from outer space and expect a jury to believe it. Armin Fence, I cannot understand why Wendy only learned about the extortion until the morning of the trial. She was not at the courtroom, so who told her? Well, she would have talked to her lawyer before she went in there, but I think the prosecution should have pulled the thread on that and asked her more details about, oh, really? You just learned about it this morning? Well, what Adelson kept asking her, what did your family say about it? What do you know? And what is your reaction about your brother now, knowing all this, that they hid this from you and all that? Keep in mind, it's not, doesn't fit the definition of extortion, but that's what most people still call it, just because that's what defense calls it, as well as the prosecution. But Yeah, so that's how she found out, but I would have probed for those kind of details. So, and just what are her thoughts and feelings about it? I would have kept on poking away at that, and they just sort of only asked 1 or 2 questions and moved on. So, something that's really a shocker like that is like, "What? You're gonna tell this jury you just knew about this now?" So so your mom kept it from you? Really, your mom kept that from you, and so you're actually in the location where well, what do you how does that make you feel about the killers being in your same county there? So, since we now know who the killers are, I would ask her more about the name change and all that. They never asked her about changing the boy's last name and middle name. So, unbelievable. And I would argue that it made it more dangerous if they have her name under the school where the boys are at. So, killers don't look for entire extended families like that, including kids. So, it just doesn't happen. This whole thing, like, well, we could be next and all that. No, how you know it wasn't a random murder? Why were you so sure it was targeted, Wendy? She never suggested one time that it could be a random random crime that happened in Dan's driveway or in his garage. Jeffrey Jordan, you still say that Charlie thought of himself as the maestro. He had this whole thing figured out. Yeah, that's what he did. He's pumped up his family full of confidence, fed them all kind of Xanax pills, however much they wanted, and he thought life is great. They're gonna get away with this and be laughing. Yeah, it's just gonna be laughing good times. Amanda, you're saying, do I think the way Adelson's treated Charlie and other kids, maybe laughing at his lawless behavior, helped contribute to him thinking no consequences to actions? Sad. I do think that you sort of do have this entitlement mentality where money can always solve your problems. You can buy your way out of any situation. You got all these connections with lawyers. You're sitting on eight and some $1 million, and it goes to your head, and you start thinking that you know they're all stupid up in Tallahassee. We're super smart here. We want Wendy down here, and if mom wants her down here with the boys, and mom's all riled up about it, you know what? I'm gonna do what I can to take care of the situation. I'll look good because then he basically can be the rescuer for his mom's problems. I don't think he would have done this for Wendy. I think he did it mostly for his mom to impress his mom. Okay, let's see here. All right, so folks, I want to talk about Wendy's looks, and that's we're trying to have serious legal conversation here. So I'm zapping those kind of comments. Yeah, the trial relocation motion is pending because they're going to have to go through the jury selection process first. They're not going to grant it when they haven't gone through it. That makes sense to wait because you know what? They are going to be able to select a jury that's going to be qualified. Steno Queen, you're asking, do I think the jury's going to dislike Donna's attorneys more than Rashbaum? They annoy me more than him, and he definitely was annoying. Yeah, well, I think is there going to be a division of labor here? Because I think Fulford, it seemed like she was going to be 50-50, but now she's been so quiet. She's not really arguing any emotions and stuff lately. And with this issue about her phone being wiretapped, or not her phone, but her conversations being wiretapped because Charlie's phone is being wiretapped. So was she talking to Harvey and that's being wiretapped, or was it Donna talking to Harvey and through her phone? So if it's through her phone and she's sitting right there, the jails don't allow that to happen. So I think that I think you could have, yes, more dislike of her attorneys if you have a lot of involvement by Fulford. I think Fulford's going to get under the skin of the jurors more than the other guy, Zellman. Zellman seems to be really sort of like, oh my gosh, I can't wait till this trial's over kind of attitude. So yeah, Tallahassee's pretty interesting town, pretty cool town. A lot of neat vegetation there. G-Lander, you're asking, has Charlie been transferred to Tallahassee? Well, he's not going to be in Leon County Jail. I don't think they'll probably keep him in a facility nearby, maybe in a county or two away, with some place within an hour's drive, I would say. So I don't see him being actually in Leon County Jail. Because think about it, they also have Sigfredo Garcia as well as Luis Herrera, the hitman team. They're going to have to keep these guys separate. They're not going to be in the same facility. Connecticut, do you think Jack Campbell would have been acting more aggressive with indictments if he was a Republican? Well, I think that if you're part of the same party, no matter what side you're on, then you can have people in high places that'll help take care of you. So I think the fact that you have Adelson's tied in with with the same party that was leading the prosecution, that is what would have helped him. So with Jack Campbell, I would say that I don't know why he's not more aggressive. I know he was handpicked by Meggs, his predecessor, to be his replacement when he retired. So I would say he's acting against the interests that were openly expressed by Willie Meggs, which is not to prosecute any Adelsons. So he's we don't know for sure how much that the Campbell connection with Meggs has affected this from not going on faster than the 11 years it's taken to get a second Adelson convicted. It's just mind boggling why it's taken so long. So I think it's more the connection that Meggs had with the same party rather than what Campbell has. And Campbell, this may not be an aggressive prosecutor. in general, which is not a good thing. You need to have really aggressive prosecutors, fair but aggressive prosecutors to do justice. That's the best way to get justice. Dreamscape, you're saying, I think that's why Wendy freaked out when Dan said he wanted to take the boys swimming after school. Charlie talked on the phone to her and calmed her down. Yeah, that's being all up in arms over taking the boys swimming. Why would that be? Phoebe Beach, you're saying Ghislaine Maxwell was in a high security prison in Tallahassee, now moved to Texas. Yeah, but if you look at the BOP.gov inmate locator, I did that today when I heard that she moved to Texas. So I wanted to see which location they had her. They said she's not in BOP custody. That's what it says. At least it said it earlier today. So is that some kind of computer delay? Timothy Smith, you're saying Wendy's supposed argument with Dan the morning of his murder was fake. She wasn't concerned that he wanted to take the kids swimming that afternoon. She knew he wouldn't be able to go swimming. Well, there wasn't an argument with Dan because she never talked to him. She never talked to him the day, that whole week. She avoided him. She didn't pick up her phone and answer it when he called right after dropping off the boys. She only called him like a couple hours later and he didn't pick up the phone. So was that a clue? And after that happened is when she decided to drive over there. Dina Metner, do I know anything about John Lauro? I just know that you can just Google it. Google him. He's got a website. I know he represented President Trump in some of his legal cases he had. He was actually on some kind of like main news channels initially for the first couple weeks, and I think they yanked him because I don't think he was doing so hot in comments he was making. See how you agree that there's no winners here? Yeah, I mean, look what an easy life the Adelsons could have had. And it's all gone down the drain. It's only getting worse. Malcolm Ritchie, hello. You're saying thank you for all. Oh, thank you for doing it for the Markells. Do you feel Donna's feeling will be that she actually believes the farce of a scenario is believable? Um, yeah, that's the problem with all these Adelsons. They act like they believe their own lies, and do they have attorneys that are willing to tell them the straight truth, which is you better cut a deal because you're going down. Do you want to cut a deal or do you want to roll the dice because you got a basically a 0% to 1% chance of winning? I wouldn't even say that. That the best case scenario is a hung jury, and guess what a hung jury is going to do for you down? You're never going to get out of jail. You're going to be retried again. So yeah, I think when you stop to think about if lawyers would confront their clients, how different this would be. If lawyers would confront the three lawyers for Katie McManus, if they would have confronted her and said, you know what? You got a chance to get out of jail free. We will not take a case where you're facing her first trial. She's facing capital murder, the death penalty. And you can basically get out of jail free if you just tell us your involvement with Charlie Adelson. And she refused to do that. And she spent, what was it, like 6 more years in Leon County Jail, all because she was that much of a knucklehead. and no one would confront her. Apparently, no attorneys would confront her. Remember how her attorney, Tara Kwas, kept on professing her innocence? I don't, I don't know how any experienced lawyer would sit there, look at Katie's involvement, look at how Charlie's lawyer called Sigfredo's lawyer to make sure they weren't talking to the police because Charlie wasn't either. I mean, that's if that doesn't tell you right there that Charlie for sure was totally in on this, then why you would sit there and believe this hogwash from Katie and put her up, prop her up in a trial? It's just unbelievable. So you went from your client being able to get out of jail free to life without parole, and you had 3 lawyers that helped get you there. I mean, I've never heard of such a horror story for worst outcome, snatching victory away and giving your client defeat instead. The worst defeat you possibly could get, other than the death penalty. But yeah, there's no bail for murder. You can have the hearing, but a judge is not going to release somebody out, even if they're 75 years old. Okay, Mark Thomas, you're asking at trial what terms of the defendant will wear prison garb or civilian. Well, the criminal defendants will never wear they're normally not in prison. They're going to come from a local jail. So those would be, they'll be having civilian clothes. Defendants are never, in no state in the federal system is a defendant ever wearing the jail uniforms, the orange jumpsuits. They're always going to have some kind of civilian clothing. Now, witnesses on the other hand, like Charlie Adelson, he's going to be testifying in his South Dakota prison garb, his prison uniform, his onesie. Unbelievable. Steno Queen, you've heard people say that they thought Dan Rochbaum was a good attorney. After 30 years of being a stenographer, I thought he wasn't a good attorney. I think Georgia is so good. Thoughts? Well, I think that Rajbaum has he did not come across as a good attorney, but he also had nothing to work with. So I'd like to see Rajbaum have a case where he had some facts to see if he could do something different. But um, yeah, I mean he had no compelling theme. I mean there's so many things that he did. I think that alienated the jury, but in the end, it wouldn't have mattered. No matter how you slice and diced it, Charlie was not going to win. I don't care who you had as his lawyer. So, I mean, Georgia, I think what Georgia has going for is that she's a honest, credible, straight shooter prosecutor. She's not doing anything shady, and she's not real aggressive. She's not real aggressive on cross examination. She's not much into details. I even saw an interview with her where she says, I'm not a details oriented person." And to me, that's one of the key things you need as a trial attorney, whether you're a prosecutor, defense attorney, is you need to be very detail focused. So they tend to not bring out a lot of details that I would if I was a prosecutor on this case. But so far, so far they've been able to get convictions, and the defense attorneys have just not been impressive. So yeah, Georgia's looked better than them by far. Lulu 22, any chance of a plea agreement before trial starts. Well, there's always a chance that Donna's been paying what, probably well over $1 million to have these folks represent her. She's hired a number of experts and all that kind of stuff. She's not going to want to have that money have zero return on investment. She wants to be able to walk out of there a free person, and she's not going to spend all that money and say, "What? I'm gonna have to serve some more time." So if she's smart, she'd try to have her attorneys cut a deal, have her get out in a few more years, credit for time served, and serves a couple more years, maybe a 5-10 year sentence. And I don't whether the prosecution would agree that I don't know, but if she's willing to give up Wendy for sure, I think the prosecution would entertain that. I agree, Maya, that Harvey needs to be arrested just as much as Wendy. No doubt. Neverly, I bet Charlie's co-inmates hate him for being a champion of verbosity. Well, we don't know that he's not in lockdown mode. They've had some stabbings up there in that South Dakota prison in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. So and it's in his wing, what is it, the Jameson wing of that prison. So I think he may be in some kind of permanent lockdown where he only gets an hour out a day where he's not around other inmates. Maria B, for how many days do you think jury selection will take? I'm coming into town for the trial and don't want to miss day one of testimony because I believe it will be Wendy first. Yeah, I don't know how far you're coming down from, but I mean, are you flying down or driving down? That probably makes a difference. But I would probably say it's going to take at least, like Charlie's case, at least 2.5 days to 3.5 days. 2.5 to 4 days, in other words. But I don't think Wendy's going to be the first one to testify. They'll establish who Dan was and how he died and that kind of stuff before they bring in Wendy. It's my prediction. Some golf girl, you want to know when they'll get Wendy, if and when. Well, it should not be an if, it should be a when. It's been way too long. So I'm thinking that the latest would be sometime sometime before Thanksgiving or Christmas. Devo, you agree the defense looks defeated? Yeah, I mean they look so so crushed. No energy. It's going through the motions. Amber C, you're saying you don't trust this trial will happen until jury selection finishes. Yeah, I mean, there's always something that could go on. I mean, Donna could fake some kind of heart attack just to get out of the courthouse. There's always something, but I think it'd be more of a legal issue than a medical issue for Donna. Some kind of conflict issue. Maybe with her current attorneys again, because I'm not comfortable with what I'm hearing about this communication and giving Donna access to communication. If that's true, that's very troubling. Karen Skywarn, what are the chances Wendy will leave the country? Are they watching her? There is some chance. How much is anyone's guess? And I think that's going to be something that she's going to be kicking herself if she doesn't leave the country. Hopefully they have some kind of tabs on her. I'm not sure what they would for sure. Spire JFK, you're saying Wendy even thanked Charlie and deleted it, saying that is so sweet. Yeah, that's one of the things on the indicator list. So Sunday night is when I plan to do the indicator list, the updated one for Wendy Adelson's indicators of her involvement. In other words, why is she listed as an unindicted co-conspirator by the prosecution? And really, there's so much there. It should be more than an unindicted. It should be indicted co-conspirator. Maybe I think the jury will have too much pity to convict Donna, especially if she acts dramatic and frail. No, I think they're going to see the personality come out of Donna. I don't think she's going to be able to act very good at all. And I think if they bring out the visitation denials, which is why I don't understand why they don't call Phil and Ruth. I'm just really disappointed in that. That's what I'd be doing if this is my case in Texas. Is definitely have the surviving members of the victim, Dan Markel's, be testifying up there, humanize the client more. And especially when you have child custody denial for so many years, these kids are now what, 14 and 16? The older one just had his birthday the other day, and grandparents don't even know where they're living now. They think they're living in Colorado somewhere, but they know so little. So no, I don't think they're going to have any sympathy and compassion. They're probably going to be like us and be going, why is it taking so long? Why has she been running free for 11 years? Sean Smith. No, I don't see the Squad guy on the witness list this time either. He's a guy that needs to be on there. I'll be calling him as well. I just think it's very important to have details, especially you got somebody that can talk about how Wendy acted that morning. I think that's very insightful testimony you could get. I'd be getting the testimony also of the ABC liquor guy. Everybody that talked to Wendy that day, I'd be interviewing them, trying to get some kind of details that I could have the jury pick up on, because I think there'd be clues there. Veggie Girl, do I anticipate more discovery being released ahead of trial? I think we'll see some more filings, but I think that's going to be it. As far as discovery being released, maybe there'll be a small chance of discovery, but I think they'll probably redact it, or we may not even know about it. I'm surprised that last filings had so much redacted on there. I thought the judge said he was going to have a high standard of that, but Jay left. Can the jury trial be delayed by not reaching an agreement on jury selection? No, no. You have like certain number of strikes that you don't need a reason for. Those are called peremptory challenges. And then you have for cause challenges, and those can be unlimited. And so you just got to go down through the list. They'll have hundreds and hundreds of potential jurors on there, and they'll just go through as many as they can until they have the 12 plus the alternates, 4 to 6 alternates. Mark Thomas, currently, do I think Charlie feels betrayed by Wendy? Well, I think you could tell that right when he's talking to his mom, Donna, after he got convicted. I mean, I think he was just like beside himself. Like, how could Wendy have brought all that stuff up? And of course, he would have seen the interview as well that she gave Detective Isom long before that. But between that interview at Isom, where she throws Charlie under the bus, and then the way she testifies at trial and just comes across such a horrible witness. But I think driving to the crime scene is the thing that tops it all. What are the odds? He even said, what are the odds that happens? 1 in a million? McRamble on. You remember hearing Meg's block the warrant on Wendy specifically, even though the feds wanted it. That guy, there was something going on there. Yes, Jenny, I've been saying that. She needs to be arrested. Devo, I think that you can get them if you have them court ordered to be turned over, but I don't think they can go back 11 years. I don't think that anybody maintains those kind of records that far back. Man, 962. She'll never turn on Wendy. Yeah, I don't think she will, but I think Charlie, there's always a chance Charlie would be the one to do it and then say, hey, mom, you join with me. We can both get better time after they're both convicted. Jubilee, you're saying juries need vetting since my neighbor said if you're on a jury on a death penalty case, they'd vote not guilty because it's better to convict an innocent person than possibly let a guilty person go free. Yeah, you don't want people like that on there. Jennifer, yeah, I've been saying this that Donna will have a hard time controlling her anger towards Wendy in front of the jury. Do I agree? But she's going to have anger towards a lot of things in the trial, so she's not going to be able to control it. Just the hatred she'll have for Rob as well. Yeah, it's just unbelievable the amount of hatred there. Moonchild Pink or Donna's attorney is going to be able to keep Donna's jail activities and the Harvey wiretap out of the trial. That's what they're trying to do now, and the judge is going to have to decide. But I think if she's trying to recruit folks to hurt people, I think that kind of information should come in. I think the judge will allow that in. Neverly, you're saying all Katie has to say is Wendy provided Dan's schedule party over. Well, yeah, it needs to be truthful testimony, though. They don't want to have any lying type testimony. Trial is starting in 18 days on 19 August. Nellie Finn, if Donna is convicted and sentenced, can the prosecution offer a reduced sentence for her testimony against Wendy if there's a Wendy trial? I hope you're. Oh, yeah, no. That the way that works is they don't cut deals after a trial. You have to beg to try to get some kind of reduction. That's the way I understand it works in Florida. So it's not like you go through, hey, I'm going to go contest this case and then testify on the witness stand that I had nothing to do with the crime, and then after you're convicted, oh, hey, now I'm willing to talk about my involvement. Hey, can we rework a new deal this time? And since I fought you the last time, it denied my involvement. So it doesn't work that way. So only if the prosecution feels that the testimony is going to be helpful, like they did with Katie. They thought Katie was helpful. So that's why they're willing to use her. And they may not say she was helpful enough to have a representation to the judge saying, hey, you know what? She was so substantial in providing assistance to prosecute Charlie and also Donna that we think we ought to shave off her without parole status and change it to life with parole. Something like that is the way it would work. Yeah, Mad 962 and the middle names, that's another level of callousness. You're talking about the middle names of Dan Markel's boys. They had both their middle names stripped as well. One of them had dual meaning, which is so yeah, Luis will testify, Daisy. That is true. Nelly, you're saying the hitman made 2 prior trips to Tallahassee. No, these hitmen made 1 prior trip. It was in the month previous. Moonchild Pink, you're saying that on STS, Donna has been emailing a local woman, said that she's definitely going to win. Unbelievable. Wow. Okay. Just like Charlie. Just like Charlie. Thought they're going home. You know what that tells me, though? It also is that, this whole delusions that she has and illusions of grandeur, it's not good to have a client be so cocky and pumped up with all this confidence that they're going to win. I mean, it's like, in other words, she's not going to be well prepared to testify. She's going to be coming across like, hey, I own it. I won it already. That's not the kind of attitude I ever want to see a client have, especially one facing life without parole. To be arrogant and cocky that they're going to walk out of there. And jurors resent that. If the client's sitting there acting like I don't have to worry about anything. I got this in the bag. Jurors resent that. I've seen that happen before where folks that are facing folks that hold the keys to their outcome and they just think they can joke and laugh around and not take this proceeding seriously. And then guess what? They get slammed with the outcome. Patriotic. Yeah, you're saying you check Leon County Jail inmate roster. Neither Charlie or Katie are listed as being there right now. Well, they're not going to put Katie in the same Leon County Jail as Donna, and they're not going to put Charlie there either. So they're going to be at different locations. Like I say, probably within the hour or so away. Well, actually, Donna's not in Leon. She's in McCullough, which is next county down south of there. So they're going to spread them out and then haul them in when they're ready to be testifying. Sir Tedrick Walker, yes, that's true. The Adelsons are used to throwing the money around to influence and get their way, but the crime evidence trial is too great for that. Yeah, the jury's not somebody they can influence with politics and money. Shouldn't be anyway. All right, I'm gonna take one or two more questions here. We're getting past, so it's already past midnight here, Central Time. Yeah, since I just thought of this, and since Wendy's moving around so much and the boys are getting a fresh start, this would be a perfect opportunity to change their names back to original names, right? If she wasn't a part of this, her family's going down, her brother's already convicted, her mom's going to get convicted. Why isn't she changing the names back to the honorable Markel name? Yes, the question by J.K. Brew or something. Yes, I did meet Leslie through this trial, so I'll just leave it at that. But thank you. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Leslie's my wonderful, beautiful wife. So there's other Leslies, by the way, on this channel that chat. Those are not my Leslie. They have different spelling. So Leslie doesn't show up here. So she totally supports me, but you're not going to see her on the chat here. Paul M., you're saying, on earth could she explain the two of us and this TV is 5? Exactly. Those are two of the most damning things against her. Those are in the two of the top 5, I would say. Two top things against Donna. And yes, Snake Hips, the boys can take their given name back when they become adults. Hopefully it won't be that long. And they'll be able to do it probably once Donna is convicted, as well as Wendy, for that matter. So, all right, that's it for now for the night, folks. So I'll be back Sunday night, probably around 9 o'clock Central Time, and I'll try to give out an earlier notice sometime tomorrow. So that's the game plan. You all have a safe weekend. Thanks for supporting Justice for Markel. Thank you for Food is Love for your support tonight, as always. And we're all eagerly awaiting justice, more justice to happen down there in Tallahassee. So with that, y'all take care. Good night.